Thank you, Vice President Earl. Fellow Rotarians, the past 2 weeks we've been talking about early agriculture in Colorado. We saw how barren and desolate the prairie lands were. We finished last week pointing out how the landscape changed when farmers learned how to manage water. Well, today I am pleased to introduce our speaker, Tom Cech. Tom was born and raised on a farm in Nebraska. He graduated from Kearney State with a degree in math education and later received a master's in community and regional planning from the University of Nebraska. He was the executive director of Central Water Conservancy District in Greeley from 1982 until April of 2011. He has just begun his own business, Cech Press, which provides water resources for writing, editing, and educational services. Tom has been an adjunct professor at UNC in the Earth Science Department, where he developed materials for principles of water resources, history, development, management, and policy. He currently is an affiliate faculty member of the Department of Ecosystem Science and Sustainability at CSU. Tom also recently published Introduction to Water Resources and Environmental Issues and Colorado Water Law for Non-Lawyers. Presently, he is writing a book on Colorado water history. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Tom Cech, who's going to talk on water highways.
Can you hear me okay in the back? I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. Is anybody here from Nebraska? Where from? Hastings? Lincoln. Kearney. Laurel? Excellent. Very good. The rest of you, have you driven? Have you been to Nebraska? Have you driven across Nebraska? On purpose? Yes. That's good. Well, I grew up on a farm. We came here in '82, raised a family in Greeley, and now we're in Fort Collins. What I want to talk to you about today is the changing face of agriculture and water resources, particularly in northeast Colorado. It's an amazing period of time we're living in. We're going to see a lot of change, and we're going to kind of focus on water highways. But I wanted to start off with some basic facts. The map shows northeastern Colorado, the South Platte River Basin. Denver's kind of the lower left side, Greeley's to the north. Top of the right map would be Julesburg. Population 4.8 million, by 2030 7.1. Going to grow a bunch. There's going to be a lot more people living in Colorado and in Denver in the coming 20 years. So where's the water going to come from? Well, before we go there, let's talk about some of our past history on water resources. The South Platte River. How many of you grew up east of the Mississippi River? East of the Mississippi River. How many of you were born and raised in Colorado? That's quite a few. Quite often when I talk to school kids, they'll be maybe less than half were born in Colorado that came from somewhere else. I came to Colorado for the first time, I think it was in the late 70s. I saw the South Platte River, and back home in eastern Nebraska, we call that a creek. It just ain't much. There's not a lot of water in the South Platte, although next month, go down and take a look at it. It's going to be really full of water on the tributaries. That's another story. But not much of a river. One of the things, the South Platte River joins the Platte River in western Nebraska. That picture on the bottom, August of 2006, the dry South Platte River in 2006. We were driving home to Nebraska to visit relatives June of '06, so we crossed the river at Grand Island, and I'll never forget, the Platte River, which is pretty wide at Grand Island, was absolutely bone dry. I mean, not even wet spots. It was bone dry, the weeds were this tall. And I remember thinking to myself, June of '06, that was during a terrible drought. This isn't real good long term, because when you start drying up major rivers like the Platte River, things are going to change upstream to not allow that to happen again, whether it's more reservoirs, whether it's more environmental concerns, whatever, things are going to happen that don't allow a river to completely dry up. I'll never forget that. It was 2006. Now, beneath the South Platte River in Colorado, South Platte River. If you get north of town by Commerce City, go to Greeley, then on to Julesburg, there's kind of a sponge of rock and sand underneath the South Platte River that's gotten there through thousands and thousands of years of erosion from the mountains, bringing down the rock and sand. And that water has filled that ground, that sand and dirt underneath the South Platte River in that valley has filled up with groundwater from all the irrigation ditches that have been constructed in the area over the last 130 or 40 years. There's a big sponge under the South Platte River. If you take Highway 85 going north or Highway 34 going east of Greeley, you'll see lots of farms with nice irrigated farms. A lot of them are using groundwater that comes out of that sponge. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's Colorado water law. 1859, the gold rush happened right here, pretty much, Auraria area is where it kind of started. A lot of miners came out. I read somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 potential prospectors came out west, 1859, 1860, to try to strike it rich to pan for gold. And what they would do, they'd go up in the hills, the early prospectors, they'd dig a little ditch from some little stream and get it to their placer mine. Placer mine might be a strip of ground, maybe 30 feet wide, 50 feet long, and that's where they could pan for gold or mine for gold. So the first guy that would get up there, he'd probably dig a little ditch with a shovel from that little stream nearby, get up to their placer mine, and they'd pan for gold. 1859. Well, the next guy that comes along, he probably went upstream of the first guy, dug a new ditch, took all the water to his placer mine, panned for gold. First guy doesn't like that. So what did the first prospector probably do to solve that water management issue? Shot the second miner, filled in the ditch, took his water because he was there first. That's Colorado water management in 1859. Now today, in 2011, we manage water exactly the same way. Except instead of using guns, what do we use? Water lawyers and water engineers. So if you have a case in water court, and Don, you've had these, you want to hire the meanest, most expensive water lawyer you can find, because they'll probably win the case for you, generally. So water law started in 1859 with that first-in-time, first-in-right concept. In 1876, in our state constitution, they put it in the state constitution, the doctrine of prior appropriation, first-in-time, first-in-right. Who got there first gets the water first. It's exactly the same as Bronco season tickets. It's exactly the same. Suppose you got your first Bronco season tickets the first year they played football, 1962, I think it was. And you kept those tickets all these years. Where would your seats be in the new stadium? 50-yard line, beautiful seats, just perfect. My wife and I moved to Colorado in 1982. Right away I sent a letter to the Broncos saying I'd love to get two season tickets. It took 10 years. 1992 we got our 2 tickets. Where did we sit in Old Mile High Stadium? 5th level. You could stand up and turn around, you could see Thornton to the north. We were so high up. So in 20 years, Broncos season tickets, or 40 years, Broncos season tickets had gotten so hard to get that if you did get a ticket, they weren't very good. With Colorado water rights, it's the same thing. From 1859 to 1890, a water right got kind of worthless. An 1890 water right in July and August isn't very good on the South Platte River because usually there's so many people ahead of you, there isn't enough water left over for that 1890 water right in July and August. Now come this June, there's going to be more water than anybody can dream of using. There's going to be plenty of water this June, but 06 it was really dry, a lot of years it's just too dry. So water rights are like Bronco season tickets. You can sell them, you can lease them, you can trade them, you can do all sorts of things. Water rights are property rights in Colorado. Very valuable property rights. Okay, over history then, gold miners came out 1859. From 1860 to 1890, they dug a whole bunch of irrigation canals along the South Platte River. There's the Highline Canal here in town. North of town, you got the Fulton Ditch, the Platteville Milling Ditch, Greeley No. 3 Ditch. All sorts of irrigation ditches dug by horses and oxen